The city that once hummed with markets and laughter had turned into an argument with silence. Buildings leaned like tired men. Streets were skeletons. The wind carried ash and the faint metallic scent of things burning. Mari held her son Ivan, 7, close to her chest. He did not cry. His small body was still. His eyes took everything in. A ruined playground, a collapsed bakery, a window where a mother once waved. Old Mr. Koval helped an elderly woman out from under a beam. He moved as if he had been practicing very long for this single kind of care. His voice was soft, practiced. Breathe slowly. Be careful. He sounded like a school teacher saying a lesson he no longer believed.
Outside, the city was a chessboard of danger. Snipers behind torn curtains, patrols cutting through alleys, the distant regular thunder of artillery. Everyone who left the shelter risked a bullet, a shell, or simply never finding their way back. If we don't reach the cellar, tomorrow we won't be here, Mary whispered. The sentence was not a fear, it was a truth carved into the day. In this place, survival grew precise, a map of when to move, where to move, what to risk. It was an art taught by hunger and fear.
The cellar was a rounded earthen cave beneath the house, damp, with a slow drip that kept time. 60 people could fit there, but tonight 100 squeezed against cold walls. They shared the last comforts, a threadbare blanket, a candle, a single tin of water divided into drops. Mary had a small crust of bread, nearly stone. She hid it in her fist until a boy shivered nearby. She moved and slid it to him without looking. "Take it. Eat," she said. He lifted his face. "And you?" "I already ate," she lied, because lies are softer than truth. Mr. Koval watched. He had a way of seeing people in pieces. Their hands first, then their faces. He placed his palm on Mary's shoulder. "To keep our humanity is to give it away," he murmured. Outside, a body lay half buried in snow. Inside, somebody hummed an old lullaby. These were the rhythms of the day. A song, a scream, a calculation of ration. We count calories like seconds now. People began to barter not with goods, but with promises. If I make it to the pump, I'll bring water. If I get a loaf, I'll give half. Trust became the currency of survival.
Bombardment comes in fits. After the earth shakes, after the glass falls, there is a hush, a silence so sharp you mistake it for peace. That silence frightened people more than the explosions. In it, everything that is broken surfaces. Marie would step outside in that hush. The street smelled of cold iron. A child's bicycle lay on its side, wheels bent into surprising shapes. On a wall, someone had scrawled with charcoal, "We remain." A man by a ruined stoop played the harmonica. The melody was small and thin, but it threaded through the concrete, and the sound became proof something more than survival was possible.
Music is the one thing they cannot burn away, the man said when Maurice stopped to listen. He did not ask for food, he only offered the tune. That night in the cellar, the harmonica echoed still. Faces lifted. For a moment, each person was no longer a stomach or a wound. They were listeners. The smallest things, a tune, a memory, a knocked cup, anchored them to a life that might return.
The week without bread made the cellar a court of impossible choices. One morning, someone found a crate of potatoes left behind in a wrecked pantry, as if a careless hand had abandoned hope and left life behind. The potatoes were small, dirty, but they were food. Mr. Koval took charge. He cut careful slivers and handed them out. He said, "We must be fair. Fairness keeps the group alive." Neighbors mended boots by candlelight, trading a patch for a warm scarf. In corners, women braided hair and sewed curtains into jackets. Little Ivan drew a house and a sun on a wall in charcoal, a bright, careless thing in an otherwise grey room.
"Is that our home?" Mari asked. "No," Ivan said. "It's the one we will have after." His voice was a tiny engine that turned the others toward endurance. Hope, simple and stubborn, grows in small gestures. A candle shared, a crust split, a story told twice so the memory takes hold. One night, a stranger arrived, a woman with a scarf full of seeds she had scavenged from a garden. She said, "We can try. We can try to grow something in the spring." The sentence was small. It sounded impossible. But the seed of that sentence took root. People who had been ragged and hollowed looked at each other and nodded.
The hardest tests are not when survival is simple, but when the right thing costs everything. A wounded young soldier was carried into the cellar one night. Blood dried on his sleeve. Fear passed through the room. If the occupiers discovered him, not only he, but the shelter might be punished. "We cannot risk it," one man said, voice cracked. "We cannot leave him to die," Mary answered, before she had time to think. She wrapped torn shirts as bandages. She steadied him. For 3 nights she held his hand when he shivered. She fed him water with a spoon the size of a hope. He woke and said in a voice like someone surfacing, "I don't remember your name. I won't forget that someone kept me human."
Word spread quietly. The human act stayed with the community. It cost them danger, yes, but it bought them a story to tell. Stories bind people. They are made of choices. Later, when supply lines offered a single ration for a family, debate flared. Give it to the wounded soldier, to the children, to the elderly. Such moments distilled the moral life. Compassion cooks up questions that simple survival cannot resolve.
Winter grew into a long, dragging thing. Months slid into each other. People learned to measure life by smaller clocks. The cadence of a pot boiling, the sound of someone's breath. Ivan grew perceptibly older. He stopped playing at pretending to be a soldier and began to notice things adults did. Tie a bandage, count matches. His childhood compressed into minutes of stolen laughter. Mr. Koval wrote in his diary, "We are not heroes. We simply did not surrender." The diary became an act of witness. He read small entries aloud at night. names of those who had left, and their little facts. Anya, baker's daughter, loved jasmine tea. Such lists turned the anonymous into people, and people into proof that they had existed. Occasionally, radios crackled with news, a pushback on a distant front, a convoy making it through, a name of a town liberated. It was news, thin as paper, but it fluttered and reminded them of context beyond the cellar. One morning, Mari and a few others risked a longer trip across town to fetch water. They returned exhausted, some of them limping from frozen feet. On their return, they found that someone had left a small tin with sugar for the children. Nobody knew who. The mystery became a blessing. They named the unknown benefactor the Quiet Samaritan. For a while, telling the story of that tin delivered warmth like the sugar itself.
One morning the earth did not tremble. The shelling stilled. Silence arrived so sudden that people mistook it for a trap. They opened the cellar door together. Outside they saw not smoke of bombardment, but smoke of fires lit for celebration. Soldiers entered the streets. People collapsed in sobs, laughter, and disbelief. Mari walked the ruined street with Ivan by her hand. She touched a wall that had been a bakery and remembered flour, the smell of yeast. She believed again that the world could be rebuilt. But liberation brought its own hard truths. The city bore the dead, the missing, the homes broken beyond recognition. Food had been eaten. Children had been hollowed out by famine. The return to normal was not a single day, but a long, careful stitching.
Mr. Koval's diary was found later among the rubble. Its final line read, "If anyone reads this, know that we did not die in vain. We lived and loved and believed."
They were not names carved on great memorials. They were ordinary people, a teacher, a mother, a boy who drew a house. They survived, and they carried as evidence the small objects that made them human: a harmonica, a tin, a charcoal sun. This story is for the forgotten faces, for the hands that passed a crust, for the whispered songs in the dark. It is for the quiet courage that outlasted shells and winters, and for the small acts that stitched the world back together. If something from their lives lingers in you, a song, a line, a question, carry it forward. Seek the archives, read their diaries, preserve their day-to-day bravery, because remembering is how we give their lives weight.